Hello everyone, it's Frosty here from Filthy Militia. Just wanted to record a little intro and explain a couple of things before going into the main part of this video. What you're about to see is a little chat between myself and Chaz from Codename Colin. Not really an interview as such, just, a little bit of a chin wag between the two of us. Now, originally this was planned as promo for the upcoming Be Sharp Xmas Bash, which is the last Codename Colin show for now. So we originally recorded this on the 22nd of November. I had no experience of doing such a thing, no experience of video editing whatsoever. So basically just rammed it all together the best way that I can. But unfortunately, the day I was going to upload it, my laptop decided to completely shit its bum and die on me. Now, luckily, the issue was resolved and I didn't actually lose anything off my original laptop. But at the time of recording, it is now less than 48 hours to the actual show, so any hopes of actually doing much promo for it have pretty much gone up in smoke. But it was a lot of fun to do, and it's always having a nice chat with Chaz, so just thought we'd upload it anyway. So yeah, hope you enjoy.
Recording in progress. We are here. Are you here?
Progress. We are in progress. And guess what?
Hey! Once again, but you've actually bought a new T-shirt since then.
I'm back to you, mate. I got this from back in your EP.
Oh yes. Well, thank you so much for your service once again. Hello, everyone. This is bizarre because we now feel like we have to talk to like an imaginary third person. I am Frosty of Filthy Militia, and I am here with.
I'm Charlie, codename Colin.
Thank you very
and
much.
I'm here with Frosty
From Filthy Militia.
A coffee.
So just a little bit of backstory about what we're doing here. So it was a few years ago when I used to do a bit of writing for this website called Fortitude Magazine, and it was around about the time. Was it when Escape from Everything came out, or just before Escape from Everything came out?
It was just before Escape because we did it as like a little promo piece for the album.
Yeah, so I did an interview with Chaz for that, and while that was all written, we did sort of like a thing like this for actually like doing the interview and then transcribing that later. And then we just thought the other day, well, we got the Christmas gig coming up at the New Cross Inn on the 17th of December. Why not do it again? But actually record it for people to watch, maybe if they want. Little
have on in the background while they do more important things than listen to our ramblings, but still get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to give a quick shout out to Colin of Colin's Punk Rock World for giving us a lot of technical advice on how to do this. That technical advice being just hit record on Zoom, and it's like, so thanks, Colin, for supporting the cause.
Cheers,
as per usual. So it's not going to be so much an interview as such. It's going to be more of just a little bit of a chatette between the two of us. I've got some questions which I wrote down on my old computer, but I'm currently in the middle of moving. That computer's backed away, so that can all just get in the bin. But yeah, so shall we just start off with if imagine no one watching this has ever heard Codename Colin before, like, this is being transmitted out to like Mars or whatever, where ska punk isn't a thing. Tell people who are Codename Colin? What do you do? What's your thing?
We are the McFly of ska punk. I'm sticking to that line.
I will not elaborate.
We are a ska punk, loosely punk, as I kind of don't like using that term, pop rock band, as I prefer, who write some silly songs and write some serious songs and perform 100% silly all of the time.
I mean, that's the way to get a serious point across. And the ironic thing is that the serious songs sound like the silly songs, and the silly songs sound like the serious songs. Is that not just ska punk?
Very much.
In a nutshell, really.
Yeah.
So why
generally, most sort of like noughties pop punk stuff like Bolivar Soup and all that sort of like that can all get emotional in a silly way as well.
I mean, why? It's interesting you describe yourself as more of a ska pop rock band. I've never heard you do that before. Like, why do you prefer using that term?
Lewis, our bass player, Mewis, as many people know, he would hate me for even bringing it up because he's like, no, we're a ska punk band. I just don't like being like in this day and age. There's not a lot that I feel is very punk in general. Everything's a bit too like you're either really manufactured sound like manufactured bands like you got like 5 Seconds of Summer that are like, oh, we're a pop punk band, and I don't know, just stuff like that. I don't feel like punk has any sort of clout to it anymore, unless you're really going for it. And like, bands like Popes, for instance, Popes Chili Town, they got the big punk attitude. They're all going out
punk as fuck, really,
all the time. Yeah, they are. Whereas me, I'm just some dude from Hemel that just plays in a band. As far as I see it, I'm just, I don't see myself as punk or anything, and I'm just some dude that used to ride a skateboard once upon a time.
Well, we all. Well, apart from me,
I've
carry on.
Just don't like the sort of punk term being put onto me personally, really. So I don't feel like I'm very punk. So I don't feel like the band is very punk. We really tried to push more of the sort of ska side of it and everything. It's not like we play loads of really fast blast beat punk stuff or anything. It is all just sort of mid-tempo rock songs with ska stuff thrown in.
Yeah, I do see what you mean. Like, there have been times in the past and even now to an extent, I think, where it's like, we call ourselves ska punk band. We definitely got like punk songs and punk influences, but there's still always that thing in the back of my mind saying, you're still a middle class white boy from the Oxfordshire countryside. It's not really like you have a dry stone wall. You're not punk.
Yeah.
But
I own a house now. I have a mortgage. I'm not punk.
I suppose it's just like it depends like which way you look at it, really. But I don't know. Let's not get into the in what's the word, the minuter details, the minute details of what
it
is and isn't punk.
Me personally, because Lewis would just be like, "Nah, we're a punk band." It's ska pop rock is where I would.
I think that's a fair assessment. So I don't want to dwell on this point too much because it's going to make me sad. But the main reason we wanted to get this done down is because the Christmas gig, which is going to be, we should probably talk about the Christmas gig a bit more. We'll do that in a sec. This gig next month, at time recording, it is currently Saturday, the 26th of November, and the gig is on the 17th of December, is going to be the farewell show for Codename Colin. For now, as I put on all the posters. What's the reason for the hiatus, as it were?
Partly because Mel and I, my girlfriend, are leaving the country for quite some time. We're going traveling.
I mean, that would make things difficult.
It would. It'd be a really long commute from like Belize or something to come play a gig. But yeah, so we're going traveling around Central America and bits of South America. So we're going to be away for most of next year. Personally, I've wanted to sort of, we not that we've been the busiest band since the lockdown lifted, but for a bunch of guys that don't do it as a full-time job, and like nobody's do it as a full-time job, but in our sort of scene really, but for a bunch of guys that also work self-employed for the most part and stuff, we've been really busy in that sense with it, and it's just sort of like felt like, no, I need to take a step back and have a break from being in a band for a while, because I've been doing it since I was like sort of 15, flat out the way that I have been doing as Codename Colin. It's just that Codename Colin just got a bit more well known, but I've been doing the grind for most of my life. Um, so yeah, it's just it might only have been 6 years of Codename Colin, but before that there was years with my first band Royal Flush, Silo 18, who Jay, our now drummer, was part of. Me and Jay initially started Codename Colin way back in 2012, so we were doing things then like so it's just been constant, and it's just one of those things. I might come back from traveling and immediately want to get back and play some songs and stuff, or I might think, oh, it's been a nice breather. I want this breather to carry on while I get some other stuff done, and yeah. So that's why there's no real date on if there's going to be anything when I come back from traveling, because I don't really want to make that decision straight like before I go, sort of thing.
No, you want the pressure off, because when you're pressured to make a decision like that, you're not always going to look at it the most clearly
No,
you possibly could.
no, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I suppose it is good. Like you don't want to end up burning out with these things or start doing things beyond when you're actually enjoying them. And no, obviously that's not what I'm saying for a minute that you are saying. I mean, obviously I know with us, there's been obviously we've been quite busy even during lockdown. You know, we had the aforementioned Kickstarter campaign, and I think that's been a driving force for us after that fact, because you know when you get a bunch of people who for some reason decide to give you $3,500, you know you can't just like you've got to put you got to put yeah, exactly. I mean you got to put the legwork in it as well,
Yeah.
just to make sure you know people people don't think they've wasted their money. You know, you don't want to take the piss with the whole thing. Particularly like that, like there's this random guy called Steve who I have no idea who he is. He lives out in Pennsylvania, I think, and he just gave us, because one of our higher pledges was the £100. We'll do a stripped down acoustic cover of your choice, and he and like you. We will send you that music file, and we'll never release it. We'll never do anything with it. That is yours. You like this little WAV file you have, that is 100% yours. Like, you know, kind of like an NFT, only it actually means something.
Yeah.
And no, and you know, when people are doing stuff like that, you know, you can't like just sit around. So, you know, we've been trying to be busy, and you know, in comparison to some bands, like we've not had the time for like tours or even the demand for like tours yet. But you know, we've done quite a few cool things this year. We've been a lot of fun, and we're hoping for some stuff for next year as well. So, but no, it sounds like it obviously it's a shame. You know, I like to think our bands go back quite a way, and it is you know, we've done a lot of cool gigs together. Like for anyone who doesn't know, Codename Colin have been main support to us for both of our EP launches. The first at the Innocent to Proven Filthy launch back at Urban Bar Whitechapel in 2018, was it?
That was a great gig. Yeah.
I remember that our first ever.
Yeah, it was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, first ever sold out gig in an 80 cap room, and the floor was bowing, and yeah, that was good. That was a jolly old time. Don't know what that venue's become now. I think someone told me once it's become an NHS only pub or something, because it's right next to the Royal.
Okay.
It's right next to the Royal London Hospital. So
doctors don't want to mingle with their patients.
Yeah, well, I can understand, you know. Yeah, but yeah, so you did that one. We did obviously Coping Mechanism at the Black Heart in Camden back in February as well, and you know, we'll need a main support if we ever get around to doing an album.
And many shows in between.
Yeah, and it's
Be there.
so. Speaking of shows, let's actually talk about this Christmas show, like, because it's a confusing thing, because I know a lot of people watching this will know about Level Up Festival and how that gets referred to a lot of people as ska punk Christmas. I can't remember who first called it that. It might have been Colin or someone like that. I can't remember.
I
But it's
should imagine so, yeah.
But it's very confusing because one of the same people who puts on Level Up, Mr. Paul Smith, Be Sharp Promotions, always has to get a shout out on something like this, actually does put on a ska punk Christmas every year. And this one's going to be a big one because we haven't had one this will be the first one in 3 years since 2019. Because obviously 2021.
2019, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because 2021 didn't happen because of COVID. 2021 was gonna happen, and then all the bands got COVID. In fact, I think out of the 9,
every band in the country got COVID that week because we were supposed to be doing a show in Hem Christmas, and then I got COVID 2 days before that to be supporting us. Then got it as well. It was chaotic.
Yeah, because we had we were going to try and soldier on with it. I remember. So we lost 5 of the 9 bands, including the headliner, and then it was going to be, because I remember very quickly doing the artwork for it, because I work for the New Cross Inn, and I do a lot of the graphic design there, and we were going to do the Be Sharp Christmas Leftovers. Was actually going to be the name of the gig. And so it was going to be Eat the Evidence headlining, Filthy Militia, Baldhead and the Dreads, and Frosty and the Snowman. And then the other 2 bands got COVID. So basically, it pretty much, it was pretty much just going to be Frosty and the Snowman and Filthy Militia left, and so we just called it in the end. For anyone who doesn't know, Frosty and the Snowman is the super group of the ages.
A joke that got out of hand.
A joke that got out of hand and was taken too seriously by both sides. It is myself on ukulele and vocals, and the wonderful Snowy of Codename Colin, and now Leadshot Hazard as well, on trumpet. Just because I don't know who it was who said it first, but I think the joke started when we played the Chelsea Inn in Bristol.
Yeah, I think it was. And I think it was like me and Lewis were joking around and saying, like, you should do it. And then you both just went, actually, we're going to make this happen.
Yeah. So we just do, we've had one gig since our conception 4 years ago or whatever it was. But yeah, we just do covers on ukulele and trumpet, and it's a jolly old time, and we should probably practice at some point because we're all raring to go for last year.
Yeah. Well rehearsed.
Well rehearsed. Well, the one practice we did have, but no one expects it. No one expects ukulele covers to sound any good. So here we are. So this year,
no, I'm going to be honest. The ukulele is not my favorite instrument.
It always sounds like it's a little bit out of tune. Always, doesn't matter. Like, you can be there, you can have fresh strings, you can be like there twiddling away for ages. It always sounds like it's a little bit out of tune, but it's a jolly old time. So this year, Saturday the 17th of December, New Cross Inn. It's going to be the first one in 3 years.
Best show ever.
Absolutely. And who have we got this year? It's 2 p.m. doors, £10 in advance. There's like 75 bands. It's good value for money, and everyone should go. Absolutely everyone. And if you're thinking about not coming, change your mind and come instead. And hopefully the rail strike gets called off, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So this year we got Frosty and the Snowman, Till on Bones, Baldhead and the Dreads, us, Easy Dread, Leadshot Hazard, Last Edition, Call Me Malcolm, and then yourselves. I mean, if you're going for a UK London ska punk
That's putting
show,
pressure on the last show.
well,
I mean, everyone's
like,
pretty much going to leave after Malcolm plays.
oh, who's that? But who's actually going to do that though? I mean, people do stick. It's one of the few events in the calendar where people really do stick around after the gig ends. I think, because like I've been to everyone rushes off to get their last train back to Kent or wherever it is, but I think last time we were at the Christmas show, that might have been the one where the manager had to call me a taxi home. Or was that the 2018 one?
Well, I know I left at about 2 o'clock, I think. It was very late even for me leaving to get back to Hemel.
I mean, how the hell did you get back to Hemel at 2 a.m.?
Oh, I didn't drink, I just drove.
Oh, right. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't think, because the year I'm thinking of, it was the year that Captain Accident headlined, and I've got to give him all the love in the world to Adam of Captain Accident, Mr. Captain Accident himself,
Mr. Accident.
Yes. Although to be fair, that night it was me having all the accidents because I ended up passing out on the bench outside the venue, and he messaged Paul to say, the front man from Filthy Militia has passed out outside. Do you have the number of any of his friends? It was not I that night I was one of the very few nights in my life where I just woke up in my bed the following day having absolutely no idea how I got there, with a Sainsbury's frozen bacon and mushroom risotto that had been in the oven for about 8 hours, and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was not impressed with me. I mean, she wasn't even there. I mean, she wasn't even there that day, but she just saw, like, I think I went on Facebook just saying, "So, do you actually have any idea how I got home last night? Because I'd be very interested to know." And it was just the manager had just ordered me an Uber because the only word she could get out of me was Crouch End. I didn't live in Crouch End. I lived like about a mile away, but how that taxi took me, I've got absolutely no idea. But that is generally just that's just the kind of show it is. So what are you particularly looking forward to for at Christmas?
It's the show in general. Like it's one of those where there's so many good bands on it that I'm just still like baffled that we've been asked to headline it above all these bands. There's lots of bands in the ska punk scene that are doing really well, but like a lot of them we don't tend to do many shows with, like bands like Random Hand and Faintest Idea and Millie Manders. They're killing it, but we don't sort of have, like, we Millie a little bit more so, but the other guys we played a couple of shows with them, but we don't have that sort of relationship where we could say we're really good friends. Whereas every band on this bill we could say we're friends with, so it's like a whole day of just mates. So that's what I'm looking
It's a
forward
mates fest,
to,
really,
because there's a lot of pressure when there's yeah, when there's bands that you feel like, you know, you've got a, I don't know, it's that sort of got something to prove sort of attitude, not in a bad way, but when the bands you don't know, you sort of feel a little bit on edge. You're not quite in your comfort zone. Not to say that I will be in my comfort zone, because we're following Call Me Malcolm, which is just insane. But it'll be a bit more relaxed. There'll be less anxiousness from general gig anxiousness, because we'd just be surrounded by mates that we've done gigs with for the last 6 years quite constantly.
And I guess that is
Till I'm bones.
But we've done it. I mean, they were supposed to. I still feel quite sorry for them because they were supposed to open Level Up this year, which is like
Yeah.
quite. It's because Level Up is one of those festivals where the opening slot is actually quite coveted. Like, I don't know if you saw, but I posted about it afterwards. The comparison of when we opened the Sunday of Level Up 2018 and played to like 50 people versus opening the Friday, because I think Till and Bones is
We just
drum.
finished work and they're just like, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a bunch of people, now a room pretty much full of people pushing 40 who are now raring to go until a couple of hours later when they realise their knees don't work anymore, and thinking, "Oh, I've definitely peaked too early here." But yeah, just like the fun, like, and I think was Till and Bones' drummer got COVID like on the day.
Oh man.
Um,
Oh,
so
that's upsetting.
I mean, I felt really bad for them because it was going to be like we ended up playing to like 200 people. But to be fair, like I think on the first day, because the first day was only going to be 4 bands anyway, it was quite it was quite a solid attendance all throughout the day. You didn't have people like, okay, like let's go get lunch now or anything like that. But we did have Jack and Charlotte come up and join in at the end of Land of the Dead with us, and I cannot remember her son's name. I feel bad. I think it's Brody. Is it Brody? Is Brody the oldest one? Anyway, but yeah, they had their son on stage with us as well. He was just there, just
That's
looking.
cute.
He was just there, just like, why are all the big men shouting?
We had a thing like that before. We played a show in Hemels Town Centre. It was when we were sort of trying to, because we were in that competition to play Slam Dunk, and that was all just competition, get people voting for you. Like, so we went out and instead of just doing general Facebook posts, we went out around town, played shows in the middle of the town centre here, and gave out flyers with like the vote code on it and everything. And at the end, Ian's son, who was only 3 or 4 at the time, he wasn't very old at all, and he got up on the stage with his little plastic saxophone. And there's a great picture of him, just like him and his dad, just like playing the saxophone on stage. But he's like 3 years old or something at the time. It was adorable.
That is precious. That really is precious. Has he gone on to learn the real thing? Is he gonna go and try and learn the real thing?
I don't know. He hasn't mentioned it before. I think he wanted to play guitar at some point, and then because I think because that whole, oh, I don't want to play what my dad plays. That's not cool. So I know they've got a guitar that he at some point was making a noise on, but I don't know. I don't know if he's. I think he's still a bit too young for something like that.
Well, you never know. Get him into it early. I mean, there's that. What was there like that 10-year-old girl who was recording drum covers and then she ended up playing with
Dave
food.
Grohl's mate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to start them off. Got to start them off somewhere. I mean, I picked up guitar when I was 15, and I don't think I've learned anything on it since.
I'm with you there. I'm pretty much the same.
That's why it was a masterstroke getting Tom in on lead guitar. It's like, okay, you can do the difficult.
You actually. So how is it now that you're not the only guitarist in a band?
I think I think at the moment, and like obviously, because as everyone on this,
Tom brings a whole different style.
It's an interesting thing because when we first started out, as you know, like ska punk bands do have a bit of a revolving door policy when it comes to membership sometimes.
Yeah.
Like we're at right now, I am the only surviving original member of the band. From when we started in 2016, we had a real spate of drummers that kept emigrating. I don't know whether it's something I said or it's like, fuck you, Frosty, I'm moving to Chile. But oh yeah, that actually going back to Level Up. Just again, that was also a really lovely moment for us when we had our original drummer Johnny B came up and he joined in with some guitar on Land of the Dead as well towards the end. And that was really nice because he now lives in Chile with his wife and his son. So that was really nice to have him back. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, it's not this is not like a comment on anyone who's been in the band before, because it's like every single person who's been in the band has had their imprint on it, and we wouldn't be where we are now without, you know, the input of everyone who's been involved. But I do think like the lineup we've got now, like it's just such a good unit. I think not just, you know, playing ability, but attitude as well. Like originally, because we were actually originally auditioned Tom to play bass, because for anyone who doesn't know, Tom and Eve Crabb, who are primarily in Ledger Hazard, we had Eve fill in for us on sax when our original sax player Hannah emigrated to another one. Emigrated, like it's just a thing. You join Filthy Militia and then you leave the country. When she went to live in Australia, ended up becoming a full-time member. And we originally tried out Tom for bass, but just before, like we had, we had Rufus, who's our bassist now, trying out. But in the same weekend, we went and tried out Tom. Like we went over to the Crab's house and just jammed through a couple of songs, and did a little bit of a songwriting session as well. And now Rufus was definitely the better bassist, but I really liked Tom's input on the songwriting process. Like he's got an ear for, and he's a very good harmonizing vocalist as well. So he's got a good ear for vocals. He's got a good ear for guitar lines, because I always thought he was going to be
that's a huge benefit. Is someone who can pick out harmonies like that is great.
I mean, we've got two. I mean, we've really got two of them in the band now. Like Mike, our trombone player, his background, like he is a professional transcriber and arranger. Like he arranges like 20-piece brass bands for a living and things like that. So he is like he basically he writes all the horn harmonies and all the vocal harmonies for us now. And I am, you know, so happy with that. But it was one thing I was worried about when it came to having two, because when we started out, we had two guitarists, and it's almost like we just couldn't find an awful lot for the second guitarist to do. And like there was some other things behind the scenes which ultimately led to him leaving the band. But now I just think Tom's just got more of a knack for it. You know, so for example, on a track like Don't You Look Back, I'll do like the very basic, like the offbeat stuff, you know, very basic stuff, because it's all I'm capable of. And he will, you know, that sort of like reggae guitar style that kind of simulates what reggae bass does, like the sort of like palm muted syncopated little riffs as well.
Stuff that just sits in the mix.
We've got riffs now. It's very, very, and also there's a lot of, and it has been an interesting thing, because there's a lot of songs, older songs, that I thought we would, you know, we're in the bin now. We've written better songs, but he's just added, like, for example, we got our song Jesus, which we've never done a studio recording of. We just did that live session. He started adding like these like those really sort of like pop punky octave chords to it, but like a sort of like you know, so if the one guitar descends and he ascends instead, and just the combination just really has breathed a lot more life into a lot of the older stuff. And that's, you know, it's been a godsend. And I will touch about a bit more on this when the time
We
after
only
the
have
time
1
has
minute
run.
left.
We've only got 1 minute left. So yeah, so we're going to go to an ad break for something.
Sponsored by Squarespace.
If you do writing, you need to use Grammarly. I'll edit all this bit out, don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll fix it in post. Now it is. All right. So
Progress.
right, so this doesn't have to be included. I could edit this out, but I do think that the world needs to know just how fucking stupid I am. So what we are now joining you again, quite a bit longer after the original Zoom call broke, because we just did 40 minutes of a 40-minute interview, and we did some really deep, like, soul searching stuff. And I wasn't recording for the entire thing. For the entire fucking thing. And like, oh mate, we talked about, like, you know, the state of the world, like what it means to be alive, you know, the deep, you know, relentless onslaught that it is to be the human race and all that sort of, like, really, you know, got down to the nitty gritty of what it's all about, and now it's just gone. So we're just going to have to talk about ska punk instead, which is the next best thing. So I believe when we left off, we were just talking about but it does also work in our benefit, because now I know the stuff I said previously that was actually really tedious and boring. I can now trim that down and not say that again. So yeah, so we were talking about the addition of Tom and Eve to the band, along with Rufus, our new bassist, who's joined recently as well, because as everyone knows, we've got quite a revolving door when it comes to ska bands and members. Now I know I previously said that, you know, this isn't a comment on anyone else who's been in the band before, because everyone's got us to the point we are at today. But we really do have a proper unit now of everyone contributing to pulling us all in the same direction. Like, as I say, like, Rufus is like phenomenal bass player, really, really eager. He can also play guitar, but he just keeps, like, surprising us every week by saying, like, oh, by the way, do you know that I'm also an artist? Like, I'm a designer, I'm a graphic designer. And like, he did our Red Kraken t-shirts for us. And then the next week he's like, oh, by the way, do you know I'm an animator? I'll do as like a lyric video or something like that. And you should also definitely go and check out his new band as well, because now he's been unleashed on the scene. Everyone wants him. They're called Unfunfair. Don't know if you've heard of them. It's
I'll check them out. Not heard, but I'll check it out.
It's Mikey and Dave, who used to be in Just Say Nay, and
okay.
I think it's also the Just Say Nay drummer as well. I don't think I've ever met the other two guys, but it's Mikey on lead vocals, and as we all know from a twist of lemon, from the Just Say Nay album, like the probably like
it's an interesting vocal. Yeah.
He's got an incredibly powerful voice. I mean, I've listened to it.
Yeah.
Like, Rufus sent us a version of it before it got released. They've got like this sort of almost like carnival horror ska thing going on.
Okay.
I think they're set up to do well. I really do. And as I say, they've just released their debut single. I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called at the moment, but if you search Unfunfair, that's all one word, it will be the only song there'll be, because it's the only one they've released so far.
I'll check it out.
Definitely do. And yeah, so yeah, I do think we're in a good bit right now. So we're trying. I mean, as I say, like, I'll go a bit into, because as with the previous bit that I forgot to record, we went into quite a long bit about what we had planned for the next year, which I think I waffled a little bit, so I'll try and keep it concise. But we had this guy called Chris Grew come stay with us. He does a lot of videography, like he does Punkin Drublic, and he set up when NoFX were doing the live streams during COVID. He was the one who set up all their gear for them, but he also
Fat Mike's swimming pool.
What was that? Sorry,
Is it the one around Fat Mike's swimming pool?
I didn't ask specifics. I don't know much about NoFX. I've got to be honest. Like I listened to one of their albums once and thought it was all right. It just wasn't really my thing. But he was staying over because he was coming over to do Punkin Drublic. Oh, he also performs like solo. His last name was like Loser or Louser. I'm not entirely sure how it's pronounced. I probably should have asked him. But he came over and just did a couple of shows. Like he supported Treehouse Fire at the New Cross Inn while he was staying with us. And I was just asking, like, you know some stuff. What would you recommend we do? Because we've recorded the album with Oz Craggs, and it was he is a phenomenal producer. Like he's worked with he did the 2 Call Me Malcolm albums. He's done some stuff for Millie Manders and the Shut Up. He did the 24 Hour Punks thing as well. For those of you who don't know, that was a charity 3-track EP with members with TJ from Barstool Preachers, Luke from Call Me Malcolm, Millie Manders, Aidan from Scar Society, and someone from Chain Scar Brassica, and maybe someone from Popes. I've got the t-shirt somewhere with everyone's name on it, but I just can't remember them for the life of me now. And they sat in the studio. They tasked themselves to write, record, and mix an album, like a 3-track EP, in 24 hours, and they did it, and it's like really really good stuff they came up with as well.
Solid.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I've always wondered like how they even maybe when you've got like that pressure on you don't, because I've found in the past, like, some of like what I think might be considered our best hooks in songs have been when we've not been worried about that sounds too cheesy or that's too simplistic or anything like that. So I'm wondering, is that if you've got that pressure on you, do you just go with like the most natural feeling idea? Yeah. So like you go with like, maybe your chorus just has repeating lines in it, but that means people pick up the lyrics much easier and it sticks in the brain more. I don't know. But yeah, so we worked with him, but obviously we had the Kickstarter money for that, and it was such a solid product that we don't want to go back and do a full album unless we can record it with him, and we can't really afford that at the moment. So Chris was saying, record 4 tracks and release them every 2 to 3 months, because Spotify is all over that shit, the algorithms and all that. I mean, I know it's a tedious game, but it's just what you got to do these days. So the plan is to get the studio, get Remy to like just bash out his tracks, or all the drum tracks in just one day, record everything else at the Crabses or wherever we can remotely, possibly with a trip to the jacuzzi while we're there. Not saying yes, not saying no. and then sending it on to be properly like mixed and mastered by like I think just before we jumped on this conversation, actually, we were talking to potentially Piper from Chinchilla Death Cult and also Housebound Scar Collective, because she does all the mixing and mastering for them. And one track is going to have a guest appearance from someone.
Nice.
Not going to
Someone
reveal
special.
someone special. Not going to reveal at this juncture in case it ends up not happening. We end up looking like dickheads. Just a little hint: it's someone who's been mentioned previously in this discussion, and I'm hoping it is still someone that's been previously mentioned in the discussion and isn't something that was cut off by me forgetting to hit the record button. Can you tell we've not done this before?
Well, as I said in the previously non-recorded section of this, that was kind of how we worked with our recordings. In general, on the whole, for like the first thing we recorded was the Just a Day single, the feeder cover, and Losing Touch, the original version of it with George Donahue down in Brighton, and we done drums in a studio down in Brighton, and then recorded the rest at George's gaff in his garage, where he's got his little studio and vocal booth set up. So we done that there, and then a lot of the other songs on that EP, well, all the other songs on that EP were done with an electric kit in his garage. And then,
Really?
yeah, so everything was done there. And then even with Andy, when we went, cause after we did the Bottom Soup cover, Andy mastered the Outgunned EP, and then he said he wanted to mix something for us. So we sent him the 1985 Bottom Soup cover, and he mixed and mastered that. And then he said, "Look, I want to do an album with you guys." So we did, but we did the same again. We went to, I think, Summerhouse Studios in North London, did drums there for 2 days, and then the rest of Escape from Everything was recorded in a school gym, weirdly enough, where we
because I always thought the whole thing was done in the studios you mentioned.
We just didn't have the budget for an entire 2 weeks in a studio. We were recording 14 days, I think it was, for Escape from Everything. So yeah, we just didn't have budget for that. So pulling in some favors, Steve and Robin from Dodo Bones band, folk, sort of folky, I guess, acoustic duo / sometimes band. Steve was a caretaker at school, and during half term, he just gave us the keys and let us into the school gym, and we set up a recording booth in the basketball courts, and then had Andy set up with his portable gear in the basically the changing rooms. And we just grabbed all like the rubber gym mats, like, and built a wall around Andy, so like the sound wasn't bouncing off all these horrible walls and everything. And we recorded everything else in there. Like the horns sounded amazing in that basketball court. I tell you, he had to take reverb off of the horns for the final mix. It was that insane. And then between breaks we were just playing basketball loads, so that was fun. And then most of the vocals were recorded well past midnight on that album. We were putting in some shifts. Andy didn't sleep pretty much for that. In 2 weeks, like
that does sound like Andy. Yeah,
2 weeks. Yeah, he's an insane grafter. So yeah, that's how we done it. We just got a good drum sound, and then the way equipment is these days, if you've got someone who knows how to work it, like you can get a good sound without having to go and do everything in the studio these days.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I suppose, the nervous part for us is that a lot of us haven't done that before, and it's, you know, while watching Oz, like just how quickly he does everything, how like, oh well, in this vocal line you had that one little bit that was just a little bit off. I'll just tweak it up there, and there's like, and it's just like doing it all in real time. It's like, are you actually a wizard? Like you. Like, so the question is, are we going to be able to record tracks where either that's going to not need to be done so much, or that are good enough quality that whoever's mixing it are going to be able to correct those sort of mistakes? Because
Well,
I
the thing
know,
is, like with how we were set up, Andy basically had a full studio portable. Like he could do all that. It wasn't just like we were plugging in, recording stuff, and he was taking it away. He had a full studio setup just in the back of his van that he just unloaded into the school gym. So and there are lots of people that do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you would still have that sort of studio feel without it being too
without the
DIY.
price tag.
Without the price tag, yeah. If you can get in a school gym somewhere, you can save yourself a few quid.
Because that reminds me of just talking about that is when Pook was telling me on he wasn't telling me, he was saying on his episode of In Defense of Scar, Pook being of Redeeman and Pook Out Records, who we're signed to, and previously have Beat the Red Light. Also, big shout out to In Defense of Scar, which you should all be definitely listening to. Those lads do a lot of work for the scene, and Pook's episode and Chaz from Lightyear's episode are very, very entertaining. But in Pook's episode, it was and also Pook is just generally a lovely, lovely man. He was saying about how like the first Beat the Red Light album was recorded, and the vocal booth, it was all recorded in someone's flat, and the vocal booth was just basically a fort made out of mattresses. But it wasn't that good at isolating sound, and obviously like Beat the Red Light being like a full-blown Scarcore band, so apparently they had neighbors knocking on the door and asking if everyone was all right, because they just heard like these like frantic screaming coming from their flat. It's just like, oh good lord. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting experience, and hopefully we can pull it off. We've got one song that we really need to have out before summer, because it's going to be a proper summer song, and then we'll just have to see what comes after that. So I do have actually a question that I wrote down that is that I managed to save.
Actually, we're nearly back to where we were.
We're nearly back to where we were. We've done it. We can actually start talking about new stuff in a bit. So throughout the history of Codename Colin, the 10-year history, would you believe?
Sort of.
Well, let's just say it's 10 years. It sounds cooler. Sounds more established. 10 years with a break in the middle doesn't sound it's not quite as street cred as the nice round number.
What's bizarre about that is like we before you ask the question, like say like 10 years, we had this 4-track EP. It was 4 demos, one of them being the 5 cover that me and Jay had recorded with different people. Like it was an entirely different band basically, and we recorded these songs. We released them in the era of like early Facebook and music pages, so no one heard it. Like absolutely no one heard it. Because we by the time we put it out, it had already come to an end essentially. So it was bizarre when we did our first show for Paul at New Cross Inn in 2016, and Leo from Just Say Nay came up to me and was like, "You used to be a band. I've got your EP. What? Do you have that?" Like, it was completely bizarre. Somehow along the line, Leo got hold of our 4-track demo EP and no one else did. Like, I didn't even have it.
He's a lot more involved in fledgling ska punk bands than I think a lot of people realise. Because I remember, like,
Yeah,
when we first started back in 2016, and I knew nothing of the London ska punk scene, absolutely nothing. I've been to a few gigs at the Fighting Cocks, and that was about it. I just put a post up saying, like, does anyone know of somewhere like ska punk band can get gigs in London? And Leo chimed in and said, speak to Paul Smith of Be Sharp Promotions. And we didn't have anything recorded. But then I remember, like, we played at a gig at the Cox, and he came down to watch us and then messaged Paul saying, yeah, these guys would be good for an opening slot. And it's like, yeah, so I suppose we have quite a bit to owe to Leo. And
another
actually,
good dude in the scene.
another good dude. And I'm gonna get soppy here for a moment, but yourselves and Lead Shot Hazard as well. I don't think you realise quite how much we owe to you guys, because it was. I remember, because I've got a good friend of mine, Sleeman, who a lot of people will know by reputation.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Man, myth, tit. We were at the Flag in Watford, and we saw an advert on the wall for it was ostensibly a Borderlands themed ska punk night.
That night. Wow, yeah.
What was that? What would that have been, like 2015 or something like? No, because
it was late 2016, I think.
Because maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Because I seem to remember going down to that gig, and I don't know where the theme came into it. Really, it was just two bands playing ska punk. As far from my
What it was some girl's birthday, and she'd put the gig on, and she was into Borderlands, and was like, everybody should dress up as Borderlands themed stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a gamer at all. So I had absolutely no idea what it was. I was just like, what's Borderlands? I've got no clue. And then I think Kieran, our drummer at the time, was like, yeah, it's like a video game. Like, all right, I'm not dressing up for that. And I think the other bands who were on as well were just like, yeah, nah.
Well, it was because it's also thing like I see, you know, occasionally like popping up on social media people who've done like Borderlands cosplay, and the thing is, because of how stylized the game is in like its character design, there's no cheap way to do it. You can't go out and just buy a 20 quid costume. You've got to sit down and make it yourself. And I think like but that gig was yourselves and Lead Shot Hazard.
It was Lead Shot Hazard. That was who it was. I couldn't remember whether it was Lead Shot or Last Edition, that one. Yeah.
And I think that was like, because when we first started practicing, we were like,
we got them onto that gig.
Mm.
That was one that we'd said to the promoter, like, we'll play, but book this band as well.
Yeah, and it was a great night. From what little of it I can remember, but I think because back then we decided we'd formed a band with a horn section, but we weren't 100% decided on what we wanted to do. And I think it was like that was one of the gigs that actually made us decide, like, you know, let's be a ska punk band, pretty much.
Yeah.
So even before you knew who we were, you were already.
I remember chatting to you outside in that smoking garden. I remember chatting to you that night, and you were saying about, oh, you're starting a band. I remember this conversation, and then I remember, like, I think you added me on Facebook, and I remember like seeing like you're doing like the open mic nights and stuff, and you know, getting some material together early on then. So I remember when you started up, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna do some shows with these guys. This dude was he was cool, he was chatty, he was nice to us.
I was probably pissed. Let's be honest. Well, Scott Punk gig, of course I am. What's that? So yeah,
it was a gig at a flag. I'm sure I was on the beers that night as well. So
yeah, it's a shame that came O'Neill's and just went a bit weird.
oh mate, the place has gone burn now, in my opinion.
Oh, I remember going there one time and it had like 6 security guards on one door. It's like, why does it need this? Anyway, but yeah, let's not complain about, because I mean it is also a shame that it's gone the way it has now, that given I don't know what you did, but now that the horns has gone as well.
That was a shock to us as well, man.
Did you have any idea?
We knew they'd struggled through lockdown, but we thought they had sorted themselves out. So we had no idea they were that close to, like, bankruptcy essentially on the night that we played, because there was another band that was supposed to play the Saturday night, a big soul covers band that got a really big pull around here. But they dropped out on the day, and it wasn't the first time that they dropped out on this pub on the day or day before, sort of thing, and left them in the lurch bit. So I think the landlady was just like a bit done with the struggle. So like after a big pulling band has dropped out on her for like the 3rd time this year, for whatever reason, they never posted a reason on Facebook or whatever. Could be COVID, could just be other issues, whatever it was. But for it to happen so many times, I think she was just that on edge and fed up because of struggling that she just went, "No, I'm done with this, closing the pub."
It's a shame. It's a shame, but it's yeah, it's just sign of the times. So anyway, let's not dwell.
It's an iconic pub that, we've been doing gigs there since I was like 18. Well, I think I was 17 the first time I played there. So yeah, it is a real shame.
I don't know. Maybe it will become something else. Probably flats, but hopefully not.
Hope someone else takes.
Yeah,
that's it. I hope someone takes it on and really gives it another push.
Yeah. So the one question I did have is, throughout the history of Codename Colin, what are some of your most memorable / proudest / embarrassing moments?
Right. Well, embarrassing moment. This 100% is, and we still will talk about how awful this gig was. We drove to Kings Lynn to play this show that we've been booked for. Got told you only need to bring your breakables and stuff, like general usual stuff. It was in some working man's club that not a lot of people had turned up for the show. Turns out when we got there was no stands for the kit. There was this ropey old drum kit. So Kieran, our drummer at the time, asked the support band, which was Easy Dread. First time we played a show with Easy Dread. And had asked their drummer to borrow stands because we were told that we didn't need them. And Sean had brought his stands, and they didn't stick around, or couldn't stick around. So like Kieran had to play the show with just a hi-hat, no other cymbals. And yeah, so that was a pretty awful show, and felt like awful for the promoter, because we just like we cut the set by like 20 minutes because we were like, what's the point in this? We'd been all that way up there. Like Kieran couldn't play properly. Like he was playing drums and he'd going to hit a cymbal and obviously just hitting air. Like so that was a pretty awful one. So yeah, we drove home that night, and then Ian's car just died on him halfway home. So Ian sat
Lord.
on the motorway for like 4 hours that night until he got like rescued by the AA, and his car was just done. Whatever, like it was part of the whole Volkswagen emissions thing that they'd been using to bypass the actual thing, had just basically blown up. I don't know cars very well, but I know they had something in the cars that was bypassing to make the emissions look better than they were,
Mm.
and that had failed, and the knock-on effect of whatever it was basically wrote Ian's car off.
Oh
So yeah,
God.
that was probably the most embarrassing, awful gig we've done. Was that one in Kings Lynn? There's been another couple, but we've generally been fairly lucky where, you know, we've been okay. There was also another embarrassing one in Hemel, um, where we we uh, we'd played, we'd rehearsed, we were well rehearsed. We had some silly idea about like making it look like we were sponsored by Levi Roots Caribbean Crush, and we did this whole little skit, and it fell stupidly flat. Partly on the fact that it was a terrible joke, and partly on the fact that Kieran had got absolutely battered and just forgot everything throughout that whole night. Because he was trying to chat up some girl and kept buying drinks for this girl before we played. Um, and yeah, he got down and sat at the kit to start the song, and he just like looked horrified because he suddenly realised how drunk he was, and we just played dreadfully.
Oh dear.
So yeah, one of those where we were like, right, there is a drinking limit on how much we have before we play now.
Yeah, we
And,
have what
like
we have one of those now, but it's entirely on me. When we did the bring back Sleeman again, and when we did the joint birthday, the 30th
yeah.
throwdown, which was a lovely time. I think we took a bit of a hit on it. We took a bit of a hit on attendance because it got postponed by about 18 months. So we had originally a Saturday in May 2020 because we turned 30 like 8 days apart from each other, and then that got postponed to a Sunday in November in 2021, and like so it wasn't even around our birthdays anymore, and so it had to become the 31st throwdown because we'd gotten a year older in the mid time, and so quite a few of the bands had to drop out because they didn't make it anymore, so we had to swap them around, and but it was a jolly old time, and I ended up having about 8 or 9 pints before I went on stage.
Oh
And
dear, that's yeah.
I apparently just everything I did was flat for the entire gig. Like El Boban, the of Baldhead and the Dreads, and also does a lot of videography work. Did our Differences music video. Very talented guy. You should go check out his work. And he did the Captain Accident Wings video as well, where he's going around collecting all the balloons. Now that's El as well. And yeah, he filmed our entire set at the throwdown, and I just cannot bring myself to watch it. So now our drummer Remy is just like, you are not having more than 2. You're allowed 2 pints and 1 on-stage pint. No more.
Yeah.
No more. And it's like, fair
Yeah,
enough. Fair enough. But hey ho, I think, you know.
Those embarrassing moments come about mostly by drinking. It is just a simple fact. Like every band does it. We've all seen bands play where they're too drunk and can't handle it. Like we've all done it. We've seen people do it. It's just one of those things, isn't it?
It's like because I think we wanted to have. We initially we were just going to make it like a full ska punk thing, but I think Eat the Evidence could make the first date, but they couldn't make the second one. But Old Chase, their skate punk band, were available, and Tom, bless him, I love it. He's such a good front man because he's got such an energy about him.
But he's brilliant. Yeah,
he was just on a different planet that night, and bearing in mind they were third on. They were on at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he kept trying to sell shrooms from the stage. It's like, I'm bringing them back. I'm bringing them back. I'm going to make shrooms cool again. So I don't want to buy any shrooms. It's like, oh my God, you cannot do this. Please don't. But from embarrassing moments, you've definitely had. Obviously, you've got slam dunk's got to be
memorable, proud moments.
slam dunk's got to be
dunk is
one.
That's like, I don't think, because I know a lot of bands in the ska punk scene don't sort of look at it as a ska punk festival. It's, you know, seen as a pop punky thing, but it was started out as a ska punk thing up in Leeds. So like we have quite a bit of a sort of connection with it because it's so local to us. It was that festival that we'd pay 25 quid ticket to go see, like, you know, Less Than Jake that's up the road from us, and we'd go every year. So it was cool to play one of those festivals that you've always enjoyed. And also, like, Lewis met his wife at a slam dunk thing in Leeds.
Oh,
So
didn't know that.
She
almost took my eye out with a bloody mascara pencil at your Halloween show. No, to be fair, like I was going, for those who don't know, I was going as Sexy Jesus. So basically, that's just a Jesus costume, but with fishnets and makeup. And I thought, I can't quite remember what happened. I think I ended up having to go into the office last minute or something, and then go straight there. Or no. My wife had to go into her office, I think, on an emergency thing. So she wasn't able to do my makeup before I left. So I just ended up like going around like, does anyone know how to? Can anyone do some makeup for me, please? I'm not weird. And then Emma did it, and that's when I realized, like, I'm not good. I knew this before. I am not good at having stuff put in my eye. And it was the first time I've ever had like eyeliner pencil done. It is literally the worst. It's just the worst experience.
It's awful, man. It's awful. I don't know why girls do it. It's awful.
She made me look great. She made me look great. Is what I was saying at the end of the last segment.
She's good. She's a good egg.
Yeah.
But yeah, so slam dunk was a big thing, and it's not like we just got on that sort of with no effort or anything like that. We like, it's seen as a battle of the bands. It is. We don't sort of usually agree with battle of the bands, but because of the festival that it is, we really wanted to play it, and we thought we had a chance. So like collectively as a band, we all put the effort into doing lots of promotional stuff with it. We weren't just putting posts out on Facebook being like, vote for us to play this, and that. We had flyers made up. We had posters at every gig we were playing. So any gigs beforehand, we were handing out flyers with like the vote code on it. We did like promotional shows in town, which I may have mentioned when we accidentally weren't recording, but we did like show in town in Hemel where we just played in the middle of the town centre and had like Mel and Rachel and Emma just going around giving out the flyers for the vote code. We just did things like that to promote it. And we found out on the way to a gig at New Cross that we'd actually won. So that was quite a nice gig.
What gig was that?
Popes.
Oh.
Yes, we were literally driving there, and Luke sat in the back. It's like, guys, we've got the slam dunk gig. What? Because we had no idea. Like, there was no sort of like, you didn't know how well any other band was doing. It was just, you found out on the day, like of the close of vote, and that was it. So that was good. Like, we put the graft in for that, and it sort of showed that all the boys wanted to work towards something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like proud moments. Like the album's a thing that we're all really proud of. There's certain shows we've played where we're really proud, and like having orders shipped over all around the world. Like, we've had people from Japan buying our stuff, and
same
America, and like, it's crazy to think. So yeah, it's all sort of little things like that all add up. We've also had a band still the Losing Touch riff, which is cool. That was quite funny.
What band's that? You're not saying.
I joke about this, like, because I don't care. Like, everyone got they've definitely ripped it off.
There's
Like,
only
mate, this
so
band never heard.
there's only
Like, this
so
band
many
never heard of us.
notes. There's only so many
Exactly. This is
notes.
what I'm saying. I'm not going to go on Marvin Gaye family on it. There's this band called Talkbats from South Korea, I think. We listened to a bit of their stuff. They're really good. But one of their songs, the riff, like the tempo of the song, the riff, everything is exactly losing touch.
I'm gonna have to look this up. I'm gonna have to look this up.
It's great. I couldn't tell you the name of the song because it's written in Korean. But yeah, if you look up Talkbats, I don't know if they're on Spotify. They might be, but there's stuff on YouTube. But we only found out from that because someone played New Year's Resolution on a podcast or something, I think. And the next song they played was this Talkbat song, and Snowy picked it up and was like, "Mate, what? That's my riff." So yeah, that was quite funny. But like, yeah, so jokingly, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm proud someone's ripped us off." In reality, this band had never heard of us. Like, there's no way. Yeah, so it's been good. There's quite a lot of things we've done that I never thought we'd do. So. We're only a little band. We're not like, it's not like we're like the most well-known band, but it's
still
good
have
not playing to empty shows. You know what I mean?
I mean, you still have thousands of people listening to you online on streaming every month. So
yeah, exactly. So that's always really cool to see that the music is out there and it's getting listened to.
So I think as we've gone on quite a bit longer than we thought we were because we lost 40 minutes, we should probably wrap things up. Would you like to take this time for any final thoughts? Just any bands that are exciting you at the moment? Your opinion on the scenes on the UK ska scene? Anyone you want to thank? I know that's an incredibly broad array of things, but just any final thoughts, really?
Well, it's really like the bands that we like, obviously, because this is going to be a last sort of show potentially ever, but probably not. But for a very long time. But like over the years, we've done a lot of shows with you guys. So like you guys have been great. We've done shows with Malcolm. They've always been great. Done Lead Shot Hazard. They've always been great. But especially Last Edition, which a lot of people I think don't really know that well in the Be Sharp, or hadn't until recently sort of given them a chance, because they're all the way up in Leicester, aren't like there's no ska punk scene as such in Leicester, or wasn't. So that I know a lot of people sort of glossed over them a little bit, and
I mean they've been doing very well with Half Drunk Club.
They're an incredible band, and we saw them play years ago, and I just discovered them online and went to a show that turns out they were playing. I didn't even know they were playing. I went to see Call Me Malcolm play, and Last Edition were opening for them. And I was like, I know all these songs. How do I know all these songs? I'd been listening to them like the week before. And from them, we just said, like, I want to do some shows with you. Here's my number. Let's do something. And we've just traded shows ever since then. And that was end of 2016, I think. And like they've been great for us, always getting us up to Leicester. We've always got them down. So like out of all the bands, like you guys in Last Edition, just been absolutely fantastic to us. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Obviously, Paul. Obviously, can't not mention Big Paul.
Oh, his ego's big. His ego's big enough.
I know. But it'd be really. You'd probably get sacked if you didn't mention him.
Maybe. Hey, no, I wouldn't, because I do all his bloody admin for him.
Oh yeah, true.
Well,
but no, he was great. Like he took us on the back of an old demo before I even had the band together. At the point that we booked our first show with Paul, it was just me and Adam, our bass player at the time.
He took us on with he took us on with nothing, with no recordings, no live footage, no nothing, not even like something recorded on a phone in practice. So yeah, he is Mr. UK Ska Punk for a reason. Well, thanks so much for this. Has been a lovely chat. In this, the first
good to see you, mate.
In this, the first of what will probably never become a series. I should have named it. So I probably should have named it, shouldn't I? Maybe. Well, I can't really call it a bag of
series.
like a bag of cans with. Well, I can't really call it a bag of cans because I've only had 4. A couple of cans with.
Yeah,
Couple of cans with.
that works.
Although I might be accused by punks in pubs of nicking their idea, which kind of has. But yeah, so do not forget Saturday the 17th of December, Be Sharp Xmas Bash. Your last chance to see Codename Colin for a while, along with a whole plethora of other great bands. It's going to be doors are at 2. It's like a tenner in advance for the entire day. It's utter nonsense.
Christmas outfits encouraged.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Let's get festive. But thank you so much for your time. And it's going to be a sad 2023 without yous. But here's to hoping for the future. And right at the death he froze.
I'll enjoy it. It'll be sunny where I am.
You'll enjoy it. It'll be sunny where you are. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that again because you actually froze in response. Your response froze. So last final thing. So yeah, thanks for sitting down with us today. And you're just putting a face at me now, aren't you? Stop it! I'm trying to sign off. So thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us today. And it will be a sad 2023 without you, but here's the future.
Here's the future. And
have fun traveling. But I'm going to see you in December. I'm going to see you in December.
See you in December. Yeah, we don't go until January.
All right. Take it easy.
See you later, dude.
And that was a couple of cans with Chaz from Codename Colin there. Thanks so much to him for being a part of this. As I say, I don't know if this something like this was just planned as a one-off. I don't know if it's something that I will ever do again. But it was fun to do. So, you know, if you did like it, let me know, and I might consider doing something similar with other artists that we're mates with in future. Do make sure to go and check out all the bands that were mentioned. Far too many to list off now. And if you are considering coming to the New Crossing this Saturday, 17th of December 2022, for the Be Sharp Xmas Bash, then I will stick a link to the tickets somewhere down below. So yeah, see you then. Ta-ta for now.